Jeb Bush had been running hard for president, but he hadn't given a sit-down interview in 2 months until yesterday. The former Florida governor sat down with Fox's Megyn Kelly. Bush said we have to show some respect for people by making it easier for illegal immigrants to attain legal status. Then this happened.
This is another area where folks say, I like Jeb Bush, but how can he ever get through the GOP primary with this position on immigration? You know that there's a core wing of the party that, for whom this will be a deal breaker.
I don't know that. I've been traveling over the last 3 months, and I get a sense that a lot of people can be persuaded, to be honest with you. But here's the deal, Megyn. If I go beyond the consideration of running to be an actual candidate, do you want people to just bend with the wind? To mirror people's sentiment, whoever's in front of you? Oh yes, I used to be for that, but now I'm for this. Is that the way we want to elect presidents?
That was an interesting back and forth, but if Jeb Bush is just first sitting down for an interview after 2 months, why isn't the press on him about that?
Yeah, that would have been a question I would have asked. You know, why aren't you sitting down to talk about it? But it's a very smart strategy on his part, right? This is something he's going to have to continue to answer. It will be the question of debates. It will be something that he is targeted on and pulled on and advertising against him. Exactly. This is, you know, he called it an act of love, right? This is something that you're going to continue to see. So coming to an audience as large as Fox with someone so popular like Megyn Kelly, like, it's a great way for him to address it. And then you get the reasonable, like, independent voters who, you know, don't really care about immigration either way. They're going to hear, oh, listen to him. He's not trying to just win a primary. That could help him in a general if he ever makes it through.
I think one difference, Michael, is that Jeb does stop and take a few reporters' questions after many of these events, so you don't have that pressure cooker building up the way you do with the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But, yeah, it's a strategy, Howie, that I think we're going to see out of a lot of front-running candidates. They don't have to do that much media anymore, really. They don't have to answer that many questions. They can tweet things out. They can have their supporters tweet things out.
And if we complain about it, who cares? Because basically the press isn't very popular?
Right, and people don't really care because the press isn't very popular. And as long as they're going out and talking to voters and taking voters' questions, I think the people are basically satisfied with that.
You agree with that?
I do. And by the way, the voters' questions to Jeb are tough. I mean, I've seen him take questions about immigration where a lot of the base doesn't agree with him, about things like Common Core, and he doesn't back away from it. And he will aggressively answer those questions and sometimes bring them up himself.
Another question that came up with Megyn Kelly has to do with the Iraq War, and Jeb Bush said, well, clearly some version of mistakes were made.
Yeah.
And then he said, you know who else said who will admit that mistakes were made, and that's George W. Bush. You think the press will continue, when they do have access to the former Florida governor, to press him about his brother because he does have that last name?
I think they will, and I think Jeb Bush has to be very clear because, look, we're going to potentially elect a commander-in-chief. Would he bring us into another war like Iraq, or would he govern differently like his father did? I think he started the process with Megyn Kelly here of essentially implying that he knows there were problems, that the intelligence was bad and a lot of other issues, but he has to be more clear because that's going to hang over his head, and I think rightly so.
But it's not just Iraq. The press question is basically, are you another George W. Bush, or are you going to govern differently?
And Hillary Clinton will face the exact same questions, you know, if she makes it, are you going to govern the exact same way as your husband? And the only difference is that George W. Bush left office fairly unpopular nationally. Bill Clinton is considered pretty popular now, even though he was very unpopular when he left office as well. People are not their family members. That's
fair, but it's just an assumption that the press doesn't always make, and maybe some voters don't as well. Christina Bellantoni, Michael Tomasky, Matt Lewis, thanks very much for joining us. You can see the entire exclusive interview with Jeb Bush on the Kelly File. That's Monday, 9 Eastern. I'll be looking forward to seeing that as well. Ahead, 3 new Republican candidates jumping into the 2016 race, but much of the media yawns. Is that fair? But up next, Deflategate is back, and the media are piling on Tom Brady and the Patriots. But have everyone else just moved on?